What would you sacrifice to preserve your honor? Would you end a lucrative career to avoid compromising your principles? Could you face public humiliation rather than tell a convenient lie? Would you maintain loyalty to someone even when abandoning them would serve your interests? For most of us, these questions feel almost absurd, relics from a bygone era when such extremes seemed necessary, even noble. Yet for the samurai of feudal Japan, these were not hypothetical dilemmas but daily realities, the very foundation upon which they built their lives. For centuries, these warriors lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior, a strict code of conduct that shaped not merely their approach to combat, but their entire existence. This philosophy governed everything from how they spoke to how they died, how they treated enemies to how they served their lords. The samurai cultivated 8 core disciplines that formed the foundation of their character and defined their place in society: rectitude, courage, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, loyalty, and self-control. Each virtue was considered essential, and together they created individuals of extraordinary integrity, courage, and purpose. But here is the uncomfortable truth. If you were to wake up tomorrow determined to live by these 8 principles with the same unwavering commitment as a samurai, you would likely find yourself unemployed, friendless, and branded as rigid, judgmental, or insane within months. Not because you lack the will or understanding, but because the very structures and incentives that define contemporary life, our economic systems, social media platforms, political institutions, and cultural values, actively work against the cultivation of these disciplines. 1. GI, rectitude and justice. GI represents moral rectitude, the ability to discern right from wrong, and act accordingly without hesitation, regardless of personal cost. The samurai viewed rectitude as the backbone of character, the unwavering commitment to doing what is right even when it is difficult, unpopular, or personally disadvantageous. Modern society struggles profoundly with this principle because we have replaced moral clarity with moral relativism. We are taught that truth is subjective, that right and wrong are matters of perspective, that justice depends on context. While nuance certainly has its place, this philosophical shift has eroded our collective ability to take firm moral stands. We see this in corporate boardrooms where executives justify unethical practices through elaborate rationalizations. We see it in politics where principles are abandoned for expedience. We see it in social discourse where people change their positions based on tribal affiliations rather than consistent values. The modern incentive structure actively punishes rectitude. Whistleblowers lose their careers. Those who speak uncomfortable truths face social ostracism. People who refuse to compromise their principles are labeled inflexible or naive. Meanwhile, those who skillfully navigate moral gray areas, who can justify anything, shift positions seamlessly, and rationalize contradictions, are rewarded with success, influence, and admiration. We celebrate the clever over the righteous, the pragmatic over the principled. In a society where algorithms determine truth, where outrage is monetized, and where changing one's stance is seen as growth rather than inconsistency, the samurai's unwavering moral rectitude appears not as strength but as rigidity. We have built a world where certainty about right and wrong is considered dangerous, and thus we cannot maintain the discipline of GI. 2. Courage. The samurai understood courage not as the absence of fear, but as action. In spite of it, You demanded bravery in both physical confrontation and moral decision-making. It meant facing death with composure, speaking truth to power, and standing alone when necessary. This courage was considered worthless if not guided by GI. Bravery without righteousness was mere recklessness. Modern society has paradoxically both fetishized and neutered true courage. We celebrate extreme sports athletes and entrepreneurs who take risks, yet these forms of courage often serve personal glory rather than moral purpose. Meanwhile, the kind of courage the samurai valued, moral courage, the willingness to sacrifice one's position for principle, has become exceedingly rare and increasingly punished. We live in an era of manufactured outrage and performative bravery, where people demonstrate courage by posting controversial opinions from behind screens, accumulating likes and follows, risking nothing. Real courage, losing your job to expose wrongdoing, breaking from your ideological tribe when they are wrong, admitting you were mistaken when evidence demands it. These acts result in punishment, not praise. Institutions demand conformity disguised as consensus. The path to advancement requires reading the room, saying what is expected, and never making powerful people truly uncomfortable. The surveillance of modern life, both digital and social, creates an environment where courage becomes increasingly costly. When every statement is recorded, every action scrutinized, every relationship networked, the safe choice becomes the only rational choice. We have created a society where courage is admired in theory but punished in practice, celebrated in movies and books while being methodically eliminated from our daily lives. 3. Gene, benevolence and compassion. Gene, often translated as benevolence or compassion, represented the samurai's obligation to show mercy, kindness, and consideration to those weaker than themselves. This was not weakness or sentimentality but the mark of true strength, the powerful warrior who could choose restraint, who understood that might without compassion was tyranny. Modern society struggles with gene because we have commodified compassion and made it conditional. Our benevolence is performative, broadcast on social media for validation. We donate to causes that enhance our image, support movements that align with our tribe, and express concern that costs us nothing. True compassion, the kind that demands personal sacrifice, that extends to those we disagree with, that continues when no one is watching, has become rare. Our economic systems actively work against gene. Capitalism rewards ruthlessness and punishes sentimentality. Companies that show too much consideration for workers, communities, or the environment are deemed inefficient and quickly overtaken by competitors willing to externalize costs. The compassionate business fails. The ruthless one thrives. At the individual level, those who consistently put others first find themselves exploited, exhausted, and left behind in careers and wealth accumulation. We have also developed a culture of conditional empathy, where compassion extends only to approved groups and sanctioned causes. This selective benevolence, determined by political affiliation, social trends, and algorithmic amplification, is fundamentally incompatible with gene, which demanded universal compassion grounded in shared humanity. When kindness becomes tribal and mercy becomes strategic, the discipline of benevolence cannot be maintained. 4. Respect and courtesy. Encompassed proper behavior, courtesy, and respect for all people, regardless of their station. The samurai's elaborate etiquette was not superficial formality but a constant practice of acknowledging the dignity and humanity of others. Every bow, every carefully chosen word, every adherence to protocol reinforced a worldview where respect was foundational to social harmony. Modern discourse has abandoned Rei in favor of what we euphemistically call authenticity. We have convinced ourselves that respect and courtesy are facades, that keeping it real means expressing every impulse without filter. Social media has accelerated this decay, creating environments where cruelty is rewarded with engagement, where dunking on opponents generates dopamine hits, where the most disrespectful voices accumulate the largest followings. The attention economy runs on conflict and outrage. Respectful dialogue generates few clicks. Inflammatory statements go viral. Platforms have learned that anger keeps users engaged, so algorithms promote content that triggers emotional reactions. A measured, courteous response languishes in obscurity while a dismissive, disrespectful hot take accumulates thousands of shares. The system has made respect economically irrational. We have also conflated respect with agreement, a catastrophic confusion. The samurai could show profound respect to an enemy while in combat. We cannot show basic courtesy to someone whose politics we oppose. A tribal nature, amplified by technology and exploited by those who profit from division, has rendered the universal respect demanded by Rei practically impossible. When we view half our fellow citizens as existential threats to be defeated rather than fellow humans deserving dignity, the discipline of Rei withers. 5. Makoto, honesty and sincerity. Makoto demanded absolute truthfulness, both in word and deed. For the samurai, deception was disgraceful. Their word was their bond, lies were intolerable, and sincerity in all dealings was paramount. This extended beyond mere factual accuracy to encompass authenticity of purpose and transparency of intention. Modern society exists in a perpetual state of managed dishonesty. Marketing is euphemism for manipulation. Public relations means crafting narratives that serve interests rather than truth. Politicians speak in carefully focus-grouped language designed to be technically accurate, while fundamentally misleading. Corporate communications are exercises in obfuscation. We have professionalized deception and rewarded those most skilled at it. The incentives against honesty permeate every institution. Companies that transparently acknowledge problems face stock price declines. Those that spin and deflect fare better. Politicians who admit uncertainty or acknowledge mistakes are deemed weak. Those who project confidence, regardless of reality, win elections. In personal relationships, brutal honesty is considered cruelty while white lies are kindness. We have built elaborate justifications for why sometimes dishonesty is the right choice, each rationalization making the next easier. Perhaps most insidiously, we have created environments where determining truth has become genuinely difficult. with information overload, sophisticated propaganda, deep fakes, and epistemic bubbles, sincere. People can hold contradictory beliefs while each claiming honesty. When the very nature of truth becomes contested, when facts are tribal, when reality itself is malleable, the samurai's straightforward commitment to Makoto becomes impossible. How can you maintain absolute honesty when the concept of truth has been weaponized? 6. Meo, honor. Meo represented the samurai's honor, their reputation, dignity, and the respect they commanded through adherence to Bushido. This honor was both intensely personal and deeply social, a complex interplay between internal integrity and external recognition. The samurai would rather die than live with dishonor, viewing reputation as more precious than life itself. Modern society has replaced honor with image management, where the samurai cultivated genuine virtue to earn authentic respect. We curate personas to accumulate followers. Honor required consistency between private character and public action. We have separated them entirely. Our public selves are carefully constructed brands while our private selves remain hidden, unexamined, often unexceptional. The concept of shame, central to honor culture, has largely disappeared from modern discourse. We celebrate shamelessness as confidence. Politicians caught in scandals simply deny, deflect, and move on, facing no real consequences as long as their tribe supports them. Celebrities and influencers monetize controversy. The disgraced simply rebrand. In a culture where nothing is truly shameful and scandals have half-lives measured in days, honor culture cannot exist. We have also developed a strange relationship with dignity. The samurai would accept death rather than compromise their honor. Modern individuals will compromise almost anything for success, comfort, or viral fame. We perform humiliation for entertainment, expose our private lives for engagement, and degrade ourselves for money. The very notion that some things are beneath one's dignity, that reputation is worth protecting, that how one is perceived by others matters, these ideas strike many as archaic, perhaps even psychologically unhealthy in their emphasis on external validation. Yet without some form of honor culture, without caring how our actions reflect on our character, the discipline of Meo has no foundation. 7. Chugi, loyalty. Chugi demanded unwavering loyalty to one's lord, one's family, one's word. This loyalty was not blind obedience but a deep commitment, grounded in mutual obligation and respect. The samurai would sacrifice everything for their lord because the lord had responsibilities to the samurai. This created bonds of trust and dependability that held society together. Modern society has rendered traditional loyalty obsolete and even suspicious. Companies display no loyalty to employees, laying off thousands in pursuit of quarterly earnings while executives take bonuses. Why then should employees show loyalty to companies? They don't. Average job tenure has plummeted, resumes are constantly circulated, and everyone is perpetually available for better offers. This isn't moral failure. It's rational response to a system that abandoned mutual obligation. In personal relationships, we champion individual authenticity over commitment. The modern ethos holds that you should leave any relationship, friendship, marriage, community, the moment it no longer serves your growth or happiness. Loyalty is reframed as codependency, commitment as limiting your potential. We are encouraged to optimize our relationships, to view people as serving our personal development rather than as bonds worthy of sacrifice. The very notion of staying loyal through difficulty, of keeping commitments when better options emerge, strikes many as irrational self-harm. Political and ideological tribalism has also warped loyalty into something the samurai would not recognize. We display fierce loyalty to parties, movements, and identities, but this loyalty is conditional on those entities continuing to signal the right positions. It is not the deep, mutual, sacrificial commitment of Chugi but rather team affiliation that can be abandoned when the team disappoints us. Without institutions, communities, or relationships that inspire genuine loyalty and practice it in return, this discipline cannot take root. 8. Jisei, self-control. Jisei represented mastery over oneself, control of emotions, restraint of impulses, discipline of body and mind. The samurai cultivated this through rigorous training, meditation, and constant practice. Self-control was not suppression but integration, the ability to feel emotions without being controlled by them, to acknowledge desires without being enslaved to them. Modern society is perhaps least capable of maintaining this discipline, because our entire economy depends on its absence. We have engineered an environment designed to overwhelm self-control. Algorithms learn our weaknesses and exploit them. Junk food is scientifically optimized for overconsumption. Social media platforms employ teams of psychologists to make their products addictive. Streaming services eliminate natural stopping points. Online shopping offers one-click purchasing. Every industry invests billions in understanding and subverting self-control. We celebrate immediate gratification as self-care and pathologize delayed gratification as unhealthy repression. The ability to endure discomfort, resist temptation, and pursue long-term goals despite short-term costs, once considered essential virtues, are now viewed with suspicion. We are told that denying ourselves pleasure is psychologically damaging, that we deserve to indulge, that life is too short for self-discipline. Meanwhile, rates of obesity, addiction, debt, and mental health issues soar. The surveillance capitalism model has made self-control economically disadvantageous for corporations to encourage. Companies profit from impulsive purchases, addictive engagement, and weakened willpower. A population with strong self-control would be devastating to quarterly earnings. So we are sold endless justifications for weakness, dressed up as empowerment and authenticity, while the disciplined life the samurai practiced is portrayed as joyless asceticism. In an environment engineered to destroy self-control, Jisei cannot survive. Conclusion: what we have traded. The samurai disciplines are not impossible to practice. Individually, scattered throughout modern society are people who embody these virtues with remarkable dedication. But these individuals succeed despite the system, not because of it. They swim against powerful currents, sacrifice opportunities others seize and often find themselves marginalized by the very excellence they cultivate. The deeper issue is not whether individuals can practice these disciplines, but whether our society can sustain them collectively, whether our institutions can reward rather than punish them, whether our culture can value them above the alternatives we have chosen. And here, the evidence is clear. Modern society is structurally incompatible with the samurai way. We have traded rectitude for flexibility, courage for safety, benevolence for efficiency, respect for authenticity, honesty for strategy, honor for image, loyalty for optionality, and self-control for immediate gratification. Each trade seemed reasonable in isolation. Each brought certain benefits, but collectively they have created a civilization that would be incomprehensible to the samurai, a world of tremendous material abundance and technological achievement, yet one where the cultivation of character has become nearly impossible. The samurai would likely view our society with both amazement and horror, amazed at what we have accomplished, horrified at what we have become. They would see people with godlike technology and medieval character, with limitless information and minimal wisdom, with global connection and profound isolation. They would recognize that we have built systems that serve everything except human excellence. This is not an argument for returning to feudal Japan or romanticizing warrior culture. The samurai system had profound flaws, including rigid hierarchy, suppression of individuality, and acceptance of violence as virtue. But in discarding the bathwater of feudalism, we may have lost the baby of character development. We have failed to ask whether the freedoms and technologies we embrace might require new forms of discipline to navigate wisely, whether the old virtues might be more, not less, necessary in our complex age. The question facing us is not whether we can recreate Bushido in the 21st century. We cannot and should not. Rather, it is whether we can build a society that cultivates any coherent set of virtues, that develops rather than degrades character, that rewards the patient accumulation of wisdom over the quick accumulation of followers. Whether we can create systems that make goodness practical, that align incentives with virtue, that measure success by the quality of people we produce rather than the quantity of products they consume. Until we can answer these questions and act upon them, the 8 disciplines of the samurai will remain what they are today: beautiful ideas that we admire from a distance, practice in private if at all, and systematically undermine through the structures we have built and the lives we have chosen to lead. We are left not with warriors but with consumers, not with discipline but with distraction, not with a way of life but with a way of passing time until time passes us. This is what modern society cannot maintain, not because we lack the knowledge of virtue, but because we have built a world where virtue cannot thrive.